Turn pain to progression in every studio session. Turn pain to progression in every studio session. Turn pain to progression. Welcome to another episode of Pain to Progression with Regis, Arzu. Money management for the rest of us. Now, who's the rest of us? If you know who's the Prince of Zamunda, you are the rest of us.
She's your queen to be, a queen to be forever, a queen who'll do whatever His Highness desires.
Come on, man. If you don't know where that's from, you have to step your game up. Okay, for the sake of time, I have to jump right into it. On Fridays, I try to introduce you to everyday people like you and me that grew up the way we did. People that went through similar obstacles and even made the same mistakes you did. I want to show you what they all have in common, and that's their financial state of mind. I define financial success as having a financially savvy state of mind. Trust me, I've literally met millionaires that stress out about money the same way you do. How? That's because they live above their means. They make $1 million a year, but live a lifestyle of $1.5 million. Lord knows where they get that extra $500,000 from. When you have a certain perception, you have to keep it up. If you see someone driving with a Bentley, what will you think if he comes back with a Civic the next day? Now, I've also met people that make $30,000 a year and have around $200,000 in the bank. And that's because they know how to make a dollar stretch. So, I want to introduce you to Yusuf Ahmed. I really wanted to introduce Yusuf to you because this dude has an amazing story. But because I know him so well, I didn't want to make the interview sound fake and rehearsed. So I asked my brother Joel, who doesn't know Yusuf very well, to interview him. So here's the interview with Yusuf and Joel. Oh, okay, wait. Before I present it, I want to tell you a little bit about Yusuf. This guy made something out of nothing for himself. This guy is one of the hardest workers I've ever met, and it's impressive how his mind works. He's never given up on anything, even when there was no hope. And he's been in a few situations where there was no hope. I hope this is okay for me to say, but I want you to know where he's come from. He went from sleeping on the floor with his wife, not knowing where he was going to get his next meal, to buying one of the biggest houses I've ever seen on the biggest land I've ever seen. He did it twice. No lie, this guy impresses me so much, but he's also the most humble person I've ever met. And you can probably hear it in his voice in the interview. He will tell you real quick that there's nothing that he has done or can do that you can't do. Now, without further ado, this is the interview with Yusuf and Joel.
Hello. Am I here? Testing 1 2 1 2 testing. Tell me about your hardship. Tell me what's up. Hey, Yusuf, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well, man. You know, it's weird times, but I'm happy you're doing well. Your family is safe.
Yep. Everybody's well. Kids are learning from home, and I'm spending more time at home, so I guess I can't complain about that. So yeah, just trying to make it to the end of the light here with this coronavirus thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it and just talk. Get into this interview. What do you think?
Okay.
So, tell me about your upbringing financially.
My upbringing financially, honestly, I didn't even have a financially upbringing. I mean, from parents that all they knew were how to pay bills, you know. I grew up with an aunt and uncle that raised me when I moved here to United States, and my uncle had his kids and he had to fend for his kids, and I was pretty much just there and when they sent me here to the US. But I mean, I didn't have anyone.
What's your background? Where are your family from?
I'm from Africa, from Somalia. So during the Somalian war, when the U.S. was allowing people to take refuge here, my aunt and a whole bunch of my family just moved here to the States, and I guess the short answer is that nobody ever taught me what money was, or what the point of money. I never, even middle school, high school, I never even understood what the purpose of money was. When I had a sister, when I needed something, I would just tell her, and if she can get it, she would get it for me. If not, I just assumed maybe they were out of it at stores or something like that. So nobody ever told me what money was until I was probably out of high school or just about done with high school, and my family, they're real religious, and they pretty much, if I didn't, respect their religion, then they weren't going to help me out. So I moved out of the house when I was 16, and from that point on, that's when I learned real fast what money was, what the purpose of money was, and everything. From then on, I always thought different than people. People would buy clothes or buy this or buy that, and none of that really interested me. Even when I was about 17, what interested me was a house. I don't know why, but that's what I wanted. That was my first goal, was a house, and I wasn't going to stop until I bought a house, and no help, no nothing. It was just me on my own when I was 16, 17, and that's when that was the first time I learned what money was, or what finances were and everything.
That's really cool that you basically taught yourself how to kind of be one track minded in setting a goal and just going for it. Was there any outside influence at all? I know you said your family didn't have that mindset, but where did you learn that from? On TV, on the radio?
I really don't understand where the whole house thing came from. Even as of today, if I look back and I'm like, why did I want a house? Why? You're 20 years old and you work 2 jobs, and you're trying to save up for a house. The easy thing to do is, hey, let me go buy this lease, or buy a car, look nice and all that. But none of that really didn't catch me, and it wasn't. I always viewed house, like somebody that owned a house, I viewed them as somewhat successful, or they own a house. Nobody could tell them to move out, or nobody could tell them pay my rent, or none of that. It's, you own something, and I guess the idea of owning something is something that interested me, is that, hey, you own it. You're not leasing it, you're not renting it, you own that property, and nobody can tell you what to do with it. So I even till this day, I really don't know where that came from, but about 18 or 19, 20, that was my first goal I made, was, hey, by the time you're 25, you're going to buy a house, and that's what I strived for till I was almost 25, and then I bought my first house. And
How old were you? Were you 26, just over, or?
I was just under 20. I was just under 25 when I bought my first house.
Wow, that's super impressive, man. That is amazing. That is inspiring.
Yeah, that was a pretty happy time around that. When I first bought that house, it didn't work like that for me. I moved on to something else right away. Then it was, hey, how can I buy a bigger house? How can I buy maybe another house? Or
well, before that, before going into the other goals you set, were there any hurdles you felt to reach the goal of the first house? And what do you think? What were they to you that stand out, if any?
There was hurdles that, obviously credit was a big thing, because when you're young and, 20, 21, I have no idea what a credit was. A credit card, is that what credit meant? I didn't know what that was. And when I first looked into buying a house, they were like, hey, what's your credit at? And I was like, I don't know, what is a credit? And then they explained to me. So that was the first hurdle, was getting my credit where I needed to be. And then obviously, the down payment for the house, because I was the breadwinner and we had 2 kids at that point, and, I had a stay-at-home wife. So it was feeding the kids, paying the rent, which was extremely high, and trying to save up at the same time. So the hurdles were just saving money, obviously, and getting your credit where it needs to be, where somebody will take you on to approve your your loan. So the credit was the hardest thing because it takes 5 seconds to destroy your credit, and it feels like it takes years to get your credit somewhere halfway decent. So the credit was a hard thing. Really was.
Were you ever discouraged about like through these hurdles and setbacks in the one goal that you had? Were you thinking like, man, this is a tough one. Maybe I need to like dream like smaller?
No, because I've always had the mindset of if you have a problem, find a way around it, not give up, or find, if you're on a track and there's a detour in the middle of it, find a way to go around that detour, or find a way to get through it. And I've never been discouraged from anything in life. If I have an issue, I find a way to deal with it. And I take that with everything in life, whether it's with kids or whether it's people or whether it's financial goals or financial problems. I always find my first instinct is find a way to deal with it. So if anything, I feel like when I have an issue, I take pride in figure out the answer rather than going to somebody for help. I like to figure out the problem and see how I can solve it. And that honestly gives me drive and willpower to succeed, is knowing that, hey, I figured out the problem and now I'm happier and I'm stronger because I figured out the problem, or the solution, I should say.
Nice. What was your lowest financial moment, you would say?
Lowest, oh man. I'd probably say when I remember this like it was yesterday, when I would probably say I was about 20. I think it was, that company Money Tree, I think it's called, where you can payday loans or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that we didn't have money to pay rent, and we had to pay the loan out every week. We got, even though we got paid, it went straight to the payday loan, and I was going back the next week to get another payday loan. And I just remember, being a month in, and I'm just payday loan after payday loan of getting money to survive till the next week. So I'd probably say that was probably the lowest point was.
I see. And I'm assuming that once you kind of like paid that down, it was a red flag every time you saw a payday loan, and that basically helped you kind of course correct and say, let me figure out another way.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. When we finally got caught up with the payday loans, that was probably one of, something that stupid, but it was probably one of the happiest days of my life, was when we got caught up and we got paid, and knowing that, hey, I can decide what to do with this money. It's not going directly to somebody else because I loaned them money. It's something that can make or break you, because if you don't find a way out of that, you are set for failure, and you're always loaning money. But if you find a way out of that, then you obviously come out a strong person, or you come out stronger because you find a problem, and it makes you stronger in the end. So yeah, that would probably say that was the lowest point of my life, was those payday loans.
Well, what about the flip side of that? What would you say is your greatest financial moment?
That's a tough one, is because I never whenever I accomplish something, I never take a second to pat myself on the back and say, hey, you did it, because I'm always striving for more. And my wife always tells me this, you're the only worker, you work, you're the sole breadwinner, and you have a house, and you feed 3 kids, and you feed me, and there's always things that you could be happy about. I always look at things that are wrong in my life, where not necessarily wrong, but things that are not where they should be, whether it's money or whether it's, should I buy more stock, or should I save up enough money, or I always find something that is not where I want it to be, and I focus on that. So
why do you think that?
I don't know, maybe
that is, yeah.
I would ask that question a lot to myself, why I'm never happy. And I don't know. I feel like if I get complacent and I'm happy with something, then that drive will also, settle in, and I'll be content with what I have. And I just feel like if I'm never content with what I have, I'm always going to want better, which is going to push me to be better by wanting better. And it's also going to set a good example for your kids,
Mm.
I don't want to get complacent where I'm at, because I always see that I could be better and I could be doing better things or bigger things. And so that's why I try not to get complacent.
Well, what do you think your wife would say was your greatest financial moment then?
Like when we bought our house that we have now, it's a $600,000 house, and when I was 20 years old, buying a $50,000 house would seem impossible. But now, I bought a $500,000 home, but I'd probably say, yeah, that buying our house that we own now is probably one of my biggest financial achievements that I've made.
All right, so Yusuf, I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
And I think it's an important one because it's one to inspire our listeners here. And I feel like a lot of people are going to want to reach your level too. So what's the one advice you would give to the listeners who strive to also potentially make it to where you've made it?
I would say always strive for greatness. I got that from LeBron, my favorite person in the world, but he always says strive for greatness. And if you really dig into what he's trying to say is whatever you think your greatness is, try to beat that. Try to match it with something just a little bit better. So I would just say, really know what you want and try to achieve it, and don't let anyone, whether it's your friends, whether it's the government, whether it's social media, don't let anyone tell you what you can and cannot do, and just focus on what your goals are at, and don't get sidetracked. I think that's the biggest hurdle that we have to overcome nowadays is distract us from our goals, whether it's social media, whether it's, sometimes friends, because they're...
Are you on social? Are you on social often?
I don't understand social media. I've never been the type to spend 5 minutes, looking up Facebook to see what other people are doing, because I'm so focused on what I'm doing, and I think I don't want to get distracted. So I think people get easily distracted, and it's not, I'm not blaming them for getting distracted, because that's what this world is trying to do to us, is distract us with, advertising and TV shows and this and that, and so easily get distracted that we forget what our goals are. We idolize the people on TV that we just think there's no way I'm going to get to where they're at because we see everything that they have. But never get complacent and never get discouraged, and always strive for greatness. But I think if I had to, give advice to my son or a friend or anyone, a neighbor, I would tell them always strive for greatness and don't get distracted, and know what your goals are at, and just try to, achieve your goal. And once you achieve that goal, find another goal. It's never be satisfied with what you have. Try to always beat yourself, because that's all you can really do is try to compete with yourself. Don't compete with other people, and really just strive for greatness. That's it.
I love that. I love the compete with yourself, because that also says focus on you, Don't get distracted.
Yep. Don't focus on what your neighbor is doing. Don't focus on the friend that got a new car, because none of that really matters. It's what do you want? Do you want that new car? And if that's so, then, take the steps in buying that new car. If you want a new house, take the steps in buying that new house. If it's being financially stable, take the steps on becoming that. So know what your goals are, and if you and I've always been the type that to have goals and I have a goal behind that goal. And that's why I'm never happy with what I have, because I set one goal, but my real target is the goal behind that goal.
Got it. Well, thank you. I think
Yes,
our
sir.
listeners took away always strive for greatness. And
Yep, there you go.
I think that's key. All right, Yusuf, man. It's a great interview, and hope to see you soon, man. All right.
Everybody.
Okay, guys. Hope there were some golden nuggets for you to steal and apply for yourself. Thank you so much, Yusuf, for talking to us about your financial journey and allowing us to take a step into your world. It is extremely and highly appreciated. If you guys want to get in contact with Yusuf, well, you can't. He doesn't believe in social media. You have to catch him out there hustling, plotting on his next move. Okay, Paint a Progression family. Hopefully you feel empowered to be the next success story. Just remember, financial success is a state of mind, not the balance on your account. Now, this information is for you to use and grow financially, but it's also for you to please subscribe on Apple Podcasts and review. Please let the world know about these gems I'm dropping for you. This information is free of charge. My only ask is that you pay this information forward. Please help me change the world. I know I can do it, but I just need your help. Let's take this information and flip the world upside down. See you Monday, my P2P family. Continue to make socially distant decisions. I need you to stay alive on this planet. All right, read us out.